Liquor Vault on-air line or by email to soundoff@967theeagle.com. This is a topic-based program, and we ask that you keep your comments brief, concise, and related to the topic being discussed. The views expressed on Sound Off are those of the hosts or callers and do not represent the opinion of 96.7 The Eagle, Spoon River Media, LLC, or the sponsors. The Liquor Vault on-air line is now open for your calls or texts at 219-362-0522. This is Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
Hello, friends. My name is Nate Laux, and I'll be your host today as we have a community conversation with LaPorte County Clerk Heather Stevens. If you have a question for County Clerk Heather Stevens, call or text the Liquor Vault on-air line at 219-362-0522 or email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com. I'm so glad to have you with us today on the show, listening and being a part of this. Again, one of you was supposed to pray for nicer weather and drop the ball. So whoever that was, again, get on it because I'd like to have plus 30 degrees out there. It's a little cold in my 155-year-old house. So today we have LaPorte County Clerk Heather Stevens on the show. If you have a question for our guest, call or text our Liquor Vault on-air line at 219-362-0522 or email soundoff@967theeagle.com. Heather, welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
Thanks for having me. Happy Monday.
It's a happy Monday to you, too. I'm not going to assume that all of our guests know what a county clerk does. Many of our guests do, but for those that don't, let's explain a little bit about what a county clerk does.
Oh, boy.
There's a lot of things I know.
There's a lot. We keep the records for the courts. We do the filings for the courts. We do the marriage license. We help people to begin the divorce processes, child support. We do so much, and then you add elections into that mix.
Which is a big deal right now, obviously. Last year you got the year off from elections, which I know made you a lot busier in other areas, and you used that year to hopefully get ready for this coming year and some things that you're changing. Now, let's talk a little bit about the election timeline that people are starting to see. I know on hometownnewsnow.com we're starting to get some stories up for candidates that have filed. People can now file for the primary for their party, Libertarian, Republican, Democrat, I assume. Explain to our listeners what that process is. So people file for a primary first, then the general. What is that like?
It's the primary first, and I always say it's kind of like the playoffs. Mm-hmm. You want to narrow it down to those best candidates for the general election. So I know a lot of people don't necessarily like having to go in and select which ballot they want, but that's why we do that. It is to get the best candidates possible.
And people don't often know that with the primary, you can vote in any one. You don't have to declare. However, when you do vote you vote for all of those candidates, correct? So when you go and vote in the primary, you have to either pick a Republican or a Democratic, or I don't know if Libertarian is including that on the primary. No. So a Republican or a Democratic ticket, and then you just vote for all the Democratic candidates that are in that primary or the Republican. However, up until that point, you don't have to declare a party or anything, correct?
Correct. Not in the state of Indiana. In the state of Indiana, your party affiliation, it just changed last year. So before it was the last primary ballot that you pulled, and now that's been changed to the last two primary ballots that you pulled. Mm-hmm. So if you want to run for sheriff as a Democrat, but your second to the last primary vote was a Republican, then you're gonna need a chairman certificate from the Democrat chairman.
Yeah. So that's the one kind of hang up there is if you do want to run for an office eventually, the parties that you're going to want to run with are going to look at your voting record and say you've not voted in our party before. So
correct.
All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that are happening with the clerk's office and voting. I watched your meeting, and you've got the election board in LaPorte County. I'm going to throw them some high praise. I watch a lot of committees and meetings in counties and cities, and Nelson Pachardo and Chuck Watterson, you run a good meeting, and it seems like you guys are kind of all on the same page for a lot of these things. Not that you're not afraid to push back against each other, but you're committed to trying to be unified in some of these things, correct?
We are. We understand that we're here to work for the people in LaPorte County. We're not in here to necessarily push our own agendas. We don't bicker. There's a lot of respect across the board. We take the politics out of it. You and I were talking before the show, and the politics that's checked at the door. Mm-hmm. We're there to work, and we're there to work for you.
Now, some of the goals that you guys have set, again, some of the changes that are happening that people might experience when they go to the polls this year. One of them is electronic poll books. Electronic poll books are nothing new in America. They are something new here in LaPorte. Explain to our listeners a little bit what an electronic poll book is and what they can expect to be that's different.
So previously, we had the big giant poll books, the paper poll books that you would show up at your precinct. They would find your name. You would sign it. Those are done. Those are gone. This is basically, it's similar to an iPad. And what it's going to do is it's going to scan your ID. It's going to pull your information up. The poll clerk can then simply say, are you still at this address? Has your name changed? Anything like that. If there have been changes, you fill out a new form. No big deal. You still get to vote. Mm-hmm. It's easy. And then you sign it, and it's going to issue a ticket. And I love the tickets because the amount of tickets that we have at the end of the day should be the same number of people who have signed in on that electronic poll book, and that should equal the number of ballots cast on that machine.
So there's a little bit of accountability there. There's a little bit of checks and balances as well,
yes.
Correct?
Yes.
This was a big deal. I think you did campaign on electronic poll books. Why was this a big deal for you?
This was a big deal. In the past, what happens is the poll books are printed on Friday, and early voting and mail-in ballots are still coming in Friday up until Election Day. Early voting especially, that's Friday night or Friday. It's Saturday. It's Monday until noon. And then those paper poll books don't reflect who voted during that time, mm-hmm. because they've already been printed and sent out. Yep. So this, again, is just, it takes error. It takes out the human error. So
then this is updated, when it's updated and on a vote gets put in there, it can be shown, not that who you vote for or whatever, but it shows that you voted in all of the poll books. Yep. Correct. And we can update that within our system in a matter of minutes. Yeah. So we've got Heather Stevens on the show today. Heather is the LaPorte County Clerk. If you have a question for Heather, you're welcome to give us a call or a text, 219-362-0522. If you have a question about elections or anything like that, we'd love to talk to you. You're also welcome to email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com. We're going to take our first break here on the show and be right back. Stay with us and keep listening to 96.7 The Eagle.
Car problems often strike at the absolute worst times, but you can rest well knowing that Cannon's Automotive Service is here for you and dedicated to get you back on the road with prompt, efficient, same-day service. The same Cannon's commitment that LaPorte has trusted for over 50 years. Cannon's Automotive Service, now with 2 locations, 710 Tyler Street and 909 Boyd Boulevard.
With Cannon's Automotive, we fix everything.
10 for $10 is back at Meijer. Buy 10 items and get the 11th free. Save more across the store with 10 for 10 savings on things like extra large red, yellow, or orange bell peppers, Chobani yogurt, Kraft macaroni and cheese, and Meijer facial tissue. Plus, get free pickup on orders over $35. Enjoy more savings with 10 for 10 at Meijer. Exclusions apply. See all the deals in the Meijer app.
There are 2.1 million Americans with opioid use disorder, and only 20% of those receive specialty addiction treatment. North Shore Health Center offers hope through substance abuse treatments and group sessions that are available right here in LaPorte. If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, don't wait. Call today, 888-822-2402. North Shore Health Center has moved to 508 Legacy Plaza, just off Monroe Street. Stop by or call 888-822-2402 or visit northshorehealth.org.
So who's hungry? Good, because I've got a deal for you. Hey, it's Dennis Siddell. Make sure you listen for Denny's Diner weekdays at 6:55 right here on the Morning Mayhem. Both Joe and I will be cooking up some country trivia questions, and if you have the correct answer, you'll be the winner of a $20 gift card from either JJ's Side Out Bar and Grill, Wanna Pizza, The Burger Bar and Grill, Nowhere Bar and Grill, and T-Berry's Diner. Make sure to join us for Denny's Diner at 6:55 a.m. during the Morning Mayhem for your chance to win a 96.7 The Eagle.
Thank you for tuning into Sound Off. You can now text or email your questions directly to the studio. Call or text 362-0522 or email your questions to soundoff@967theeagle.com. This is Sound Off.
Welcome back, friends. My name's Nate Laux, and you're listening to Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle. We've got LaPorte County Clerk Heather Stevens with us on the show today, and we're talking about elections, just different things going on with the clerk's office. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to call me at 219-362-0522, or you can text me on the Liquor Vault on-air line at 219-362-0522. Finally, you can email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com. Let's get to our first caller. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Thanks for being on air. What's your question for Heather Stevens today?
Thank you for coming on the air today, ma'am. This is Steve Hollifield. My question concerns elections. Do you think there's ever going to be a chance that the state of Indiana is going to go to an open primary system where we do not have to declare a party or have to sign petitions to run independent? I think in the future, since it doesn't cost anything to print ballots, it's all electronic now. There's no actual cost to put 10 or 12 people on a ballot. Could that possibly make it easier for better people to become qualified, especially here locally? Thank you.
All right, thanks for calling.
Hi, Steve. I have no idea what the state's going to do. Not a clue. My job is to follow the statutes, not make them. I'm happy to support whatever's decided.
Yeah, a lot of that's on the legislative level, correct?
Absolutely.
So I want to talk a little bit about a mobile voting center that you guys have received and purchased here in LaPorte County. I did get to see there's one in Porter County, and these aren't new for anywhere, but they are new to LaPorte County. Explain to our listeners what a mobile voting center is and how it will be used in this upcoming election.
We are so excited about this. This mobile voting unit is a van it will hold, I believe, 3 voting machines. We can take this thing. It is also handicapped accessible. We have a lift. This thing is so cool. But we can take it anywhere in the county. If there are areas where transportation is an issue, that's okay, because we can come to you. We do have to issue public notice, just like any place, just like early voting, just like your polling locations. We're in the process right now of putting together a schedule for the primary, but this is really neat because we can take it to Fish Lake, we can take it up to Rolling Prairie for a couple of days, we can take it to South County, we can take it to Michigan City. I mean, this thing goes everywhere.
So theoretically then, on Monday during the primary, early voting, you might say we'll be in Rolling Prairie, Tuesday Fish Lake, Wednesday Kingsbury, or something like this.
Yes.
In some of these smaller communities, and into Michigan City for maybe communities that are underrepresented or something like that. You can really target communities that might not have an easier time voting, correct?
Right. This can go to, we can go to an apartment complex. We can go to an assisted living facility, nursing homes. This is a game changer.
So what was the impetus for getting one of these? Was it because you want to just, make it easier on people to vote? Was it, why did the county want to get one of these?
This is the baby of Nelson Pichardo. Mm-hmm. This was Nelson's work. So excited for him. But it started before I was on the election board. I think Nelson just happened to find that grant and think, what a cool thing for LaPorte, mm-hmm. especially geographically. We're so big, and it just makes sense for us.
Yeah, and I know in 2020 you started having a couple more early voting locations around the county, but this certainly, it takes a lot to get those going, correct?
It does, and there's a lot more cost involved with an early voting location. So this is
Yep.
just as good.
So you can So you've got one team running this mobile voting center, but they can hit multiple different communities in a week or a day even. So
Yes.
that's exciting.
And I have to give Nelson a shout out because he found a grant for this. So this was at no cost to the LaPorte
To the
County taxpayers.
That's the best kind of thing that we do, right?
Yes, and we did the same thing with the poll books. This was all a grant, so it didn't come out of LaPorte's pocket.
All right, we've got Heather Stevens on the show today, the LaPorte County Clerk. If you have a question, the Liquor Vault on-air line is 219-362-0522. Again, that number's 219-362-0522. You're welcome to call me or text me, and I'd be happy to put you on air here. All right, here is a question for you that's received from our text line. How do you volunteer to work the polls?
The poll workers for the elections, those are appointed by the two-party chairmen, the two major party chairmen, which would be Dr. Cora and Alan Stevens. Reach out to them if if you don't know how to reach out to them, how to contact them, you can always call the LaPorte County Voter Registration Office, and because they're appointed by the two-party chairman, they do keep a list, and they'll get you that contact, or they'll have the party chairman contact you. I'll actually give you their number. The number for the voter registration office is 219-325-5572. The state requires a balance between the two parties to be in the polls. So as much as voter registration doesn't like to ask your party affiliation, they have to for this one.
Mm-hmm. And do they go by your previous primary vote then as
Yes.
well? Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about, is this going to, having electronic polling, is this going to require fewer volunteers to run, or is it going to be about the same amount?
I think this year it's going to be about the same. We've had a lot of questions about vote centers, which I'm sure is on your list of things to talk about. If and when we go to vote centers, then we would reduce the number of poll workers that we would need.
So I guess that's a great segue into it. So I know there are some elected officials that are for it, and it gets this idea of vote centers, right, versus traditional polling locations. Explain to our listeners what it is and kind of how the county is processing it.
If you've ever done the early voting, right now LaPorte County has 4 locations for early voting, and it doesn't matter where you live, you can go to any of them. Mm-hmm. And basically they're a vote center. Mm-hmm. So that's what a vote center is. You don't have to necessarily vote in your precinct. At a precinct polling location.
So if you live in LaPorte but work in Michigan City, you can vote in Michigan City.
Right, or Hannah, or
exactly.
Fish Lake. So
then the voting centers open it up to more people being able to vote in different locations in the county. Obviously, you still need to vote in one of the locations in the county you live, but it opens that up. Now, there are a lot of different polling places right now, different townships. It's like, will that then, when you go to voting centers, will that minimize some of that then? Will you not have as many polling centers, or is that to be determined?
That's to be determined, but I would imagine, I know the city of LaPorte has quite a few polling locations. Some of them are maybe 2 miles from each other, and come on.
Yeah. So, and requires their own volunteers, their own, for all of that. So
and it's more cost for the county.
Yep. All right. Here's a question for you. Again, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but I'll ask it for you. Will you have early voting locations again in 2022?
Yes.
Yep. So same ones, same places?
I think so. I've heard some rumors about 8th Street in Michigan City, so I'm not real sure what's going on there, so I don't want to commit.
Yep.
But
one of the other things that I thought was really cool that you did, that you talked about in your last meeting, and people might not know this. So the FEC.gov, you can go on there and you can check let's say Jackie Walorski. You can see who gave to Jackie Walorski's committee. Now, you can't see who gave to the PACs or anything that are supporting them, but if it's an individual donation, you can see your neighbors who gave, which is always a fun exercise. However, local races, we don't have that ability. That's not on FEC.gov. However, Heather has put those campaign because they do have to give that data. The data just previously wasn't online, and so you have put this data online, correct?
I have. First of all, it's public information. Pretty much what was going on was, so-and-so would come in to the clerk's office. You would have to request whose campaign finance reports you wanted to see, and then everybody started, whispering and texting, and, it's silly. This is public information. You should be able to view it anytime you want, and it's nobody's business whose reports you're looking at. I also think that it keeps everybody honest.
Yep.
I think knowing that the public can easily view these, I think keeps everyone honest. So
I kind of loved it. Again, I'm a nerd for reports, and I loved reading some of the reports because there's such a vast difference in just what different campaigns cost. And so for me to look at it, it wasn't even who gives what to who. It doesn't matter to me. I just like looking at the bottom line to say this kind of council person spent this amount of money, this person spent this amount of money, and this person lost and this person won, or this, and it's just fascinating to me, especially as we talk, there's a broader conversation about money in politics. So it's just fascinating to me. So thank you so much for doing that, because that's maybe not everyone's interested in it, but some people will, I'm sure. So where can people get that information?
You can go to laporteco.in.gov, and it's on the elections page. We put a tab that says, I think it says campaign finance reports over on the left-hand side. And if you click that, then it's going to come up all the years will come up. So you can select the year that you'd like to view, and then you can search it by the committee name.
All right, we've got Heather Stevens, the LaPorte County Clerk, in our studio today, talking about elections and what's happening with the clerk's office and things like that. If you have a question, the Liquor Vault on-air line is 219-362-0522. I'd love to hear from you today. You can call me or text me, and we could talk a little bit more about what your questions are. Heather, we do have a question that was given to us about security of local elections. How secure do you think our local elections are?
I think our local elections are quite secure. I was just reading something last week. Nationwide, I think Indiana is ranked 12th for security. We do our absolute best. So
when there's a results, when the results come in with our county offices, anyway, again, you're not in charge of any other office,
Nope.
but in this county office, you're confident in the results.
I am.
Yep. All right. That's good to know. Again, as these kind of conversations happen, because, again, you are a key stakeholder in our local elections, and I think people have to trust that our elections are secure and safe, and being able to do that and being able to hear from our person who is pretty much in charge of our local elections is good to hear that you are confident in
I'm very confident.
Our local elections. All right, we've got Heather Stevens here in the studio. If you have a question, the Liquor Vault on-air line is open to 219-362-0522. You're welcome to call or text me. I'd be happy to ask the question for you. Let's get to a caller before break. Hey, thanks so much for calling. Glad to have you on the show. What's your question for Heather Stevens?
Yeah, I know they had problems last presidential election with illegal aliens trying to vote. What kind of security they're going to use in that area?
So in the state of Indiana, you show ID to vote. And that's,
so it's not really a thing here because you do have to have an ID to vote,
right?
Correct?
You have to show your ID.
And in the new electronic poll books, the ID has to get scanned in. So there's
Yes.
the extra level of
Yes.
It has to be registered with the state, correct?
Correct.
So there's even an extra level of protection there.
Yeah, when you register to vote in the state of Indiana, there is a question on the form that says, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" Mm-hmm. And while we can't, nobody's requiring people to prove it, we have to trust that you're answering that question honestly.
Yeah, it's not a big concern of yours, though.
It's not.
All right, we've got Heather Stevens in the studio today. If you have a question for about our local elections or anything going on, the Liquor Vault on-air line is 219-362-0522. You're welcome to call me or text me. I tell you what, we're going to take our final break of the day here on Sound Off, but we'll be back shortly. Keep listening to 96.7 The Eagle.
Ben Conowitz here, LaPorte Seamless Gutter, 219-362-9972. You know, fall is here, and that means leaves and debris for your gutter system. We've got 3 separate types of gutter guard for your home. Leaves and debris come in all shapes and sizes. We don't need a one-size-fits-all for your gutter. Give us a call today for a free estimate at 219-362-9972, or you can visit us on the web, www.lpseamless.com.
It's a brand new year, and that means it's time to head someplace different. And that place is Michigan City Kia. Come check out our new 2022 Kia lineup, including sedans, SUVs, crossovers, hybrids, and electric models. From gas sippers to family haulers and everything in between, there's a Kia vehicle to fit every budget and lifestyle. Come in for a test drive and check out Michigan City Kia today. Or visit MichiganCityKia.com, now part of the Bob Lacurcio Auto Group.
You don't like buying a car this way.
Look at all the things I've collected over the years in here, Dave.
Why, Dad?
So you'll have many things to remember me by, and, you know, I'm sure you can use it all someday.
But, Dad, I can't use all these things.
Yeah, but just think, it's all yours someday.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Dad. Is that a bumper I see buried with this stuff?
Oh, hey, yeah, I believe it's your mom's 1976 Pinto. And again, it's going to be yours someday.
Do you have things you don't need or want anymore? Are you tired of seeing things that you thought was a good idea to buy and then turn around and put it away in some corner of your garage? Well, you're in luck. At 96.7 The Eagle, we can help by reading your garage, rummage, estate, or yard sale during Tradio. All you need to do is visit hometownnewsnow.com, click on the Submit tab, and fill out the form, and we'll contact you for the payment. It's that simple. Of course, we do accept debit and credit cards for payment. So listen weekdays at 9:45 for your sale to be read live on 96.7 The Eagle, and check out the listings at hometownnewsnow.com.
Michiana weather.
Partly cloudy skies this afternoon with a chance for snow. Highs around 19. Northwesterly winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. Chance of snow tonight 4 above. From the Weather Center at hometownnewsnow.com. Right now, 19.
We're waiting to hear from you. Dial or text 362-0522 and let us know what you think. That's 362-0522. Back to Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
Welcome back, friends, to our final segment of Sound Off today. And I want to welcome all of our guests listening online. You know, we've got a mobile app for 96.7 The Eagle that you can listen to the show, or just go on to 967theeagle.com and you can listen to there as well. And we've got people listening all over the country, over by Miami, by Jacksonville, Florida, by Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. area. Hello to the president, probably listening right now. People in Indianapolis, in Illinois, all over Detroit, these kind of things. So thank you so much for listening to the show. Thanks for listening to the station online. And thanks for those that listen to the radio. We're just grateful to have you on the show today. We've got Heather Stevens, the LaPorte County Clerk, in the studio today, and we're talking about local elections, just stuff like that. If you have a question or you want to know something about our election system, the Liquor Vault on-air line is 219-362-0522. You're welcome to call me or text me. That's 219-362-0522. I have a question for you here. What about getting polling locations out of schools? There's some people that want to get this out of schools. What's your thoughts on that?
So we like you mentioned, we did have an election board meeting on Friday, and that topic did come up, not for the first time. I think that our entire election board agrees. We want the polling locations out of the schools just as much as everybody else. I think that it's disruptive for the kids. I think that it may add some security risks. I just don't think it belongs. So we are actively working to find different locations. Now, having said that, we are bound by certain guidelines statutorily. It has to be ADA, handicapped accessible. We need restrooms.
Strong infrastructure for internet, these kind of things,
yep,
correct? Yeah.
Yep, and I believe it has to be, and I'm going to have to check statute again, it can only be X amount of miles from the farthest spot in that precinct.
Okay.
So it does kind of tie you down. So again, we're working on it. we want them out.
Yeah, the election board is on. So if I'm hearing you right, the election board is in favor of this and is planning on doing this. There are hurdles to get there, though.
There are certainly hurdles.
Yeah, and so hopefully it'll happen, but it will happen. But hopefully,
Yeah, right.
whether it will happen by this primary or not is a whole other thing, correct?
We're pushing.
Yep. All right, if you have a question for Heather Stevens, the Liquor Vault on-air line is 219-362-0522. You're welcome to call or text me. Let's get to another caller. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Thanks for calling. Heather Stevens is in the studio today. What question do you have for her?
Hello, Nate.
Yeah.
That me?
Yep, that's you, buddy.
Okay. We've been listening here, and I haven't registered to vote in years. It just rolls over. So with this new system of electronic, do you have to get registered and get an electronic number or something?
Nope.
That's one question. And she was saying that you no longer can vote in a school. Well, are we not trusting the voters to be good people? And another funny thing on this, I always have to come up with the funny stuff. The government has separated church and state. Am I correct?
Correct.
Correct.
But now you go to a church to vote. It's kind of funny for an old man to comprehend that,
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, just want to make a comment. I would like to know your answer to why anyone would want to vote early. And I don't want it confused with absentee voting, early voting. Why does a person want to vote early? You can vote 60 days, I think, early, can't you? So what happens if your candidate does something wrong or you dislike him at that day? You can't change it, so the whole system is confusing.
All right.
The main thing we need to know is about the electronic. Do we have to register?
It's a good
Thank
question.
You.
Yep. Well, let's go through a list of some of those questions. So with the electronic poll books, does registration for voting change?
It does not. If you're registered to vote, you're good to go.
And there's a site, I know, I forget what it is. Maybe you've got it off the top of your head to check your registration. Do you know what it is? There's many of them on there. I'm sure you can just Google, check your registration.
You can go, I believe you can even go to in.gov. You can call your local voter registration office.
Yep,
and
there's
they'll
many
let
ways.
you know.
Yep. So it doesn't going into the polls should look nothing different getting there. Now, once you get to the polls, it'll look a little different in how you vote or how you register when you get there. But the process to get there is all the same, correct?
Yeah, really the only difference is you're no longer signing on paper.
Mm-hmm.
You're signing on the electronic poll book.
Yep. And then, again, it allows for those votes that might come in a little bit later from, absentee or whatever to be checked, up to date, with those who,
Right.
All right. So the voting in schools, he says, do you not trust the voters? I don't
know that it's a trust thing. I find it disruptive to the kids. And I just don't think it belongs. And that doesn't mean that I don't think kids should see the process. Of course, I think kids should see the process. I'm a big fan of using 16 and 17-year-olds as poll workers because I think it gets them involved. It lets them know, and they learn a lot. So, but I think it's time to get out of the schools.
And I'm gonna call another person into this. I'm gonna call Dennis Siddell to the microphone real quick. Dennis? You voted early this year, in 2020.
I did.
Explain why somebody would want to vote early.
One, some people can't get off work. Your employer will not allow you to do it on election day. It's not a holiday or anything. Two, the hours that we work, it was convenient for my wife and I. We voted early, and we did it on a Saturday. And three, I don't see a problem personally with it. I'm still voting. And I think that's the bottom line. If we can go out and vote, just like Heather was saying with the portable, or the mobile unit, I think that's awesome. We can get people to vote. So personally, I don't see there's a problem. But those are the reasons for us.
Well, and I think a lot of people want to. I vote early because I work on election day.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I can't leave to go vote. But for a lot of people, it's the convenience factor. They don't want to stand in the long. There may be longer lines on election day. So it's just
especially with the way COVID was in 2020 and you know, these kind of things. I'm sure it was but yeah, you know, I understand what he's saying to say, you know, what if something changes in your beliefs for that candidate? I don't think that happens often, though. But
not often. It did happen. I don't remember who it was, but it has happened. And pretty much what happens is everybody calls in and says, "Can I change my vote?" And the answer is no.
So it is the potential, right? That's the potential you get.
That's
but
the
again,
risk.
though, but then there's also a lot of benefits for those who want to vote early. I do vote on the day, just because I have the ability to do that, but not everyone does. So, all right, let's get to another caller. Hey, Heather Stevens is on the show today. Thanks so much for calling. What's your question for the county clerk?
Well, I just have a comment. Is May the 3rd the primary?
Yes.
I think I've seen election signs already for sheriff. I think that's way too early. Your comment, please? Thank you.
I would have to check the statute, but your county election board has decided we're not the election police. We're not going to go looking for trouble. If you see something and you feel that you need to make a complaint, you can email or you can type something up and mail it to us. My email address is hstevens, STEVENS, @laporteco.in.gov. My understanding that as long as there's no ordinance, no county ordinance, no city ordinance, those signs are fine.
What about some questions we've got through our text line for the last couple minutes here? What about mail-in voting? Is that happening this year? Is it secure?
Yes, absolutely.
So first, is it happening this year? Yes.
Absentee voting will happen this year by mail. Is it secure?
There's a process, right, for you guys to go through.
There is a process. It is secure. Now I will tell you that I had a ballot returned this past June because it got lost in the mail. So that vote unfortunately was not counted, and I think that I don't vote by mail. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
But yes, it's legit. It's as safe as it can be, and it's happening.
All right, can we get rid of straight ticket voting? That's a legislator
Talk to
issue.
your legislators.
All right. Dennis, I thought your employer had to allow you time to vote.
No, they do not.
As the manager of a place, you can attest you don't have to have. Now, you might be able to allow.
We
people
allow,
here,
if they want to. Yes, we always have.
There is not a legal statute that says you have to give them time.
I do not have to, but we have always done that here.
Yeah, but sure. But I think that is a misconception that you have to allow somebody time.
Well, you've got 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Yep.
So, and your lunch hour, too, is another thing. So, I mean, if you get a lunch hour, I mean.
And that's if your polling location is close enough.
Yeah, true. That's very true.
You work at the mills or something, and
that's not going to happen. Yeah, not going to happen there, right?
So, certainly, it is difficult for some people on that day to get off. And no, they do not have to allow you time to get off to vote. It is a misconception. We do not have that in Indiana, a law that says an employer has to give you time off to vote. So early voting is good for those that might not have time off to vote, or it might just, again, like Heather said, she works the polls all day on election day, and probably the days before are all a blur for those people that are working in the clerk's office. So getting voted early is just getting it done with, and
That's right. As long as people are voting, I'm happy.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today, Heather. What do you want our listeners to know? Anything that they should know going forward?
Just know that your county election board is working hard. My first comment during the board comments Friday was, wow, that was an off year. We've done a lot. We're going to continue to do a lot. We're just working. We are trying to make voting as easy as possible for everyone that should be voting.
Yep. And I want to thank you and Chuck Watterson and Nelson Pichardo. Chuck obviously is a Republican. Nelson's a Democrat. I love that you guys are working together for the betterment of our community and to get all this stuff done. And so, again, if you have any questions about this, let us know in another episode. We'll certainly, a lot of these questions that we've had today are actually legislator questions, and we'll put them to the legislators when they come on the show in the future. Hey, I want to thank you so much for listening today. On Friday, Mayor Tom Dermody will be on the show. He, for a couple months, has only been on Mondays, and he said, I want to come back on a Friday. So I gave him permission. So I need you guys to ask the tough questions for him, because he's always like, Sound Off listeners don't give me tough questions, and I want the tough questions this Friday. So on Friday he'll be here, and then Lisa Pierzakowski's on next Friday. So keep listening to 96.7 The Eagle, keep listening to Sound Off, and have a great day.
Thank you for joining us and voicing your opinion on this edition of Sound Off. The views on Sound Off are those of the host or callers and do not represent the opinion of 96.7 The Eagle, Spoon River Media LLC, or the sponsors. Sound Off airs every Monday and Friday at 12:30. Please mark your calendar and join us again for the next edition of Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle. Your home for country music variety is 96.7 The Eagle, WCOE FM LaPorte.
Michiana weather.
Partly cloudy skies this afternoon with a chance for snow. Highs around 19.